Hi, it's Martin from the Accelerator team, and as promised, I'm here with Gemma Graham, who's our marketing head.
Head of marketing.
Head of marketing, sorry, got to get the message one right. So we promised you a session on marketing, and this is it. This is episode 8 of the Business Stuff podcast. So Gemma, we've talked a lot in the previous episodes about monitoring all kinds of things and, you know, making sure that you're getting the right kind of business, you're doing profitable work, pricing it right. We've got to make sure people come to us in the first place, and that's where marketing comes in. Let's just assume we're in business, but we've never done any marketing. Where would we even start? What's the first thing to think about?
Well, I always say to businesses, the first thing they've got to think about when they are planning a marketing strategy is just understanding their values of the company. Why did they set it up in the first place? What is the product or service that they have, and knowing their why. Why would a customer come to you and use your product or service over the thousands of other competitors that they are? So this is like really getting under the skin of understanding why you're in business and what you're doing and what you're setting out to achieve. What are your targets? What are your, not just marketing objectives, what are the overall values and objectives of the business?
So what's the personality of the business as well? Are you going to be known as the fun? I mean, look, I don't know if there's such a thing as a fun electrician, but there's millions of electricians. Why you? What is it that you bring that's different?
Absolutely. It's your sustained competitive advantage, exactly. So you would always revert back to that when you're doing your marketing. You know, anybody can say we're the best electrician, we're the best plumber, but why are you the best electrician or the best plumber? What is it that's at the core of your business that sets you apart? And that's your brand story, and that's where you go in your messaging.
Right, okay then. So we've got, you've mentioned one thing there. So if you're something like a Sparky, there's thousands of Sparkies, you've got to find a way to be different. You've got to do something that other Sparkies can't, or do the same thing in a different way, or at least look like you're doing something in a different way. I'm not saying you should lie, but you've got to give the impression, because your target audience won't know unless you tell them.
Absolutely.
The other side of that thing then is you need to figure out who it is you're trying to pitch to, don't you?
Yes. So the second key point, after you know your why and your values and who you are and what you're doing, is audience. Always knowing exactly who you're talking to and exactly what message you want to say to them. So obviously you can do a whole host of like target audience profiling and things like that. But really understanding what their issue is. And I know there's a great book, James Ashford, Selling to Serve, which is all about answering your target audience question or problem, and how can your product or service really help solve that problem or answer a question. You know, why it's knowing knowing and understanding your audience's pain points, really.
Yeah. So what's their issue?
Yeah.
And how are you going to make that easier?
And how you're going to
if
solve
you're a
that
Sparky,
with your...
and I don't know, let's just say there was a rush of house fires through bad wiring, well, we can stop your house burning down.
Yeah.
No one cares whether the wire's a new wire or an old wire. Everyone wants it to be up to code or whatever, but if you're going to literally stop them getting electrocuted and all that kind of stuff, then that's what you're doing, isn't it? It's a really bad example, but I say that because my fuse box nearly set me to the house last week. And don't worry, I'm getting that sorted. So we know why we're in business. We've got the brand values. We know what the business is trying to do, and that isn't fitting sockets. It's making houses safer. Yeah, for instance.
Exactly. It's getting to the root of the problem and also the kind of heartfelt problem, really understanding what is keeping your customer up at night, and really trying to solve that for them.
Because if it's not an emotional purchase, it's then just a price-driven purchase, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's exactly right. So it's that emotional connection that you really need to try and get over with your brand wording, really.
And I realise as we're saying this, there's probably a good half of our audience are thinking, I can't make my product or service into an emotional sale. And this is something that we've struggled with on and off over the years to come up with, you know, variations of what we do. But we often talk now not about adding people's stuff up. We've got this idea of 3 freedoms, haven't we?
Yeah.
This isn't a Robson Adler pitch, but it's just this is just to show you the kind of way you can sell something as dull as accountancy.
Absolutely. So obviously in my role, selling accountancy could come across as quite a dull thing. How do you sell accountancy? It's a compliance service. Everybody needs an accountant. So what we did therefore is look at our clients' problems and issues, like what I just said, going back to the problem. And we found that our clients were struggling for time. So they wanted their weekends back. So in our marketing messaging, obviously we talk about giving people back the freedom of time. We also found that they were stressed and under a lot of pressure, and they just didn't have the brain capacity to kind of do their own accounts. So again, our messaging is all about freedom of mind and how we can eliminate that and alleviate that from them. And also freedom of finance, because our clients were finding it a struggle to manage their finances, basically. So that is a good example of how we've taken quite a dull subject, I suppose it's fair to say, a compliance service, and really got the emotive element through to our target audience. We can save you freedom of time, mind and finances.
Yeah, because most people set a business up because a lot of people began self-employment because they were sick of working for someone else, too many hours, making that employer the money, and having most of the stress anyway. So they think, oh, well, it'll be easier if I worked for myself, I'll make more money in less time. And very rarely does that pan out quite like that, does it? You know, people often find the work a lot more. They don't know how to price, they can't get it right, they're taking on bad work just because they're worried they're not going to have any work and all of those things. So getting your audience right, hitting the audience in the right way, and knowing why you're doing it really is quite important. So let's say we've got all of those things. We've got an audience, we know what they look like. So we're not in, from Robson Adler's perspective, it's busy, kind of stressed people who aren't making as much money as they thought they would, and they haven't got any time to fix any of those things. We then, we focus to make sure that we try and reach those people, don't we? Does it make a difference then? Now we've pictured the audience, does it matter how you do it? I mean, because obviously there's thousands of ways you can now get to people, but you've got to know not just who the audience are, but where they hang about, for want of a better way of putting it, haven't you?
Absolutely, exactly. So that's part of the marketing mix. So as you say, you've got a whole load of marketing tactics there. You've got, goodness, social media, you've got magazines, newspapers, networking, events. So it's really understanding where your target audience is. So for example, if you are a farmer, which is one of our clients, we will promote our services at agricultural exhibitions, agricultural trade magazines and things like that. We wouldn't, necessarily put an advert in a glossy magazine, for example, for that target audience.
For that audience,
Exactly. So it's really, I mean, it sounds basic, and it pretty much is. Marketing's not rocket science, but really some people do struggle with knowing where to position themselves and what outlet. So if you want to attract students, for example, there's a whole host of social media platforms, but it's understanding which social media platform most students are on. It's not necessarily Facebook for students.
Cool youngsters like me are on Facebook, so I presume students aren't.
Yeah, well, no, they're not. And there's lots of research to show that Facebook's, it's great for businesses, although that's on the decline. But students in a younger audience are using the more snazzy ones like Snapchat and TikTok and things like that. So it's constantly evolving and constantly knowing where your audiences are and what's the best way to get their attention.
So let's say then we now know why we're doing it. We know what our audience looks like. We know where they are. We know where they hang around. The next big challenge people probably have is to think, well, okay, if I just had the perfect message now to get to them, I would be winning. But you're probably thinking, well, where do I start? If a blog was the right thing, what's the blog on? What do I come up with? How do I get inspiration? Where do I get ideas from on what I should be saying to these people?
Yeah, well, that's quite simple. And again, that goes to, leads back to a book. on the ask, the answer.
Yeah.
So most of your marketing messaging should be aimed at the problem or the issue or the question that your target audience have got. And therefore, it's quite simple. Literally, go through your emails, go through your call history. What have your clients been asking you questions on? What somebody just rang you up and said, can you just quickly answer me this? That, therefore, if one person's asked that question, it's pretty certain that a lot of your target audience are also going to know the answer to that question. And that's kind of where you can start pulling out like gems of information on, I'm going to create a blog post on how to fix your boiler or how to, increase the water pressure or whatever it may be. And that's where you really start hitting home and building relationships with your target audience, because you're relating to them and getting underneath the skin of their questions.
Because what we've tried, we've been around 100 years, so for probably 95 years, we wrote articles on obscure audit regulations and, double taxation treatments with far off countries, and nobody cares about it. It's highly relevant to three people.
Yeah.
And it's often seen as, this will show how good we are. But nobody's got that actual problem.
Yeah.
The problem we get asked most is, where do I pay my tax?
Yeah.
Where do I sign a tax return? The questions are actually really simple.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be complex. It can just be literally, this is what a return looks like and where you sign it. This is what the pages show.
Yeah.
Or with the boiler, this is how to repressurize your own boiler. You probably don't need a plumber. They'll thank you for that. They'll find you because that's what they're searching for, and they'll know that you're helpful. And when they've got a bigger issue, they'll come back and ask you that question, won't they?
Absolutely. I think that goes back to if you overcomplicate your messaging, you lose. It's about keeping your messaging and your marketing messages clear and simple and concise and really to the point. One of our most popular blog posts on Robson Nadler's blog is how should I get a company car or not? What's the benefits? It's something so simple, but it's why people come back to us time and time again to find out the answers to these simple questions, but they've got us at front of mind.
And again, the idea here then, just to connect the dots for anyone who isn't appreciating, when we say the book They Ask You Answer, everyone is asking these questions. Some will ask you. Everyone else is asking Google, aren't they?
Yeah.
Or YouTube, or if there's any other search engines out there, I'm sure there are some, Bing or whatever else. So if you've got content on there that if you've got a YouTube video, how do I repressurize my combi boiler?
Yeah.
Someone is going to search for that.
Yeah.
And find your blog or your video, your tutorial, your reel, wherever you've put that.
Yeah.
Your audience will search for that and find it, won't they?
Absolutely. That's getting down more of the SEO and a bit more of a complex marketing route. But certainly when we are also creating content for blogs, there's platforms out there you can research to see what are people typing into Google, what are people searching for. If you type in, accountancy, what's all the questions around accountancy that people are asking, and that can help shape your content, and that works for lots of industries.
Yeah, actually there's some little games people play on. A lot of celebrities do this on in Google. They type something like, I know what James Blunt is, and then the suggestions that come up are what people are typing on there, aren't they? So if you say my boiler isn't, the 5 suggestions are the 5 most. So even something simple without going into tools, you can actually get an idea from almost the autofill on Google.
You can,
what people are asking about boilers, for instance, if boilers are a thing. So and we've got a whole bunch of different things there. We've got someone now who knows what they're doing, why they're doing it, what their audience are, where their audience are. How much do you need to put out there, and who should do it? So you might have someone who's a one-man band, one-woman band, whatever, and they're absolutely chocker and they think, well, I can't possibly spend any time on this. Obviously, you can outsource. Good, bad, can it work? Does it always work? Or...
Yeah, again, there's no yes or no answer. As long as you are going back to your values and behaviours, we're living in a world of authenticity. So, you can hand over your marketing to an external agency, but I think as long as you know your core and your being and your why, and the marketing agency understands that and make sure that the whole plan is aligned to that, that's absolutely fine. But I think as well, it's easy to fall into the trap of, I'm just going to concentrate on the business, you do the marketing. I don't think that works. I think as a business owner, you have to be ingrained in it yourself as well, because it comes from you, it comes from your heart and your being. So I would always say, getting a third party to do it is absolutely fine, but as long as you remain at the heart of that and in control of that.
You can't just hand it off.
Yeah, absolutely, because then they could go off on different tangents. And I think also when people are buying a product or service, they like to know often the face behind it. And that's why we do a lot of meet the team and profiling, and people buy people after all. So I think if you can make sure that you remain high in the profile of your marketing as well, it is a good tip.
Okay then. So I suppose to summarise there as well, then it's not a passive thing. You can't just say, I'm going to get a random marketing call. I'm just going to send them the link to my website and my phone number, tell them I'm a Sparky, and ask them to find work for me. It's not going to work, is it? Because the first question any good marketing person would be, say, well, what does your target audience look like?
Yeah.
Where do they hang around, and how do you want me to find them?
Exactly.
What do you do different? Yeah. So that then leads us down into, we've talked about the one-person business. It doesn't matter whether you've got one person or 100 people. Whose job is marketing then? Because obviously we've got a marketing team.
Yeah.
But I think often it's easy to think, well, but you do the marketing, I don't have to. And that's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone has to be involved, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say marketing is integral to every department within the business. Because getting back to what I just said before, people buy people. And I think if you understand the marketing process and who you're trying to attract, who you're trying to win new work from, to help the bigger business goals, then you become a brand ambassador. So when you're going out and about, networking, or not even networking, just in passing conversation, I think you are a talking head for the business, and marketing really should be skills that everybody in the team should have. I think it's fair enough to say, yes, we've got a marketing team that can help execute things, but I think on a day-to-day basis, everybody should have a knowledge of marketing, because they are selling the business when they're going out and about and meeting people and sometimes closing the sale or
And just off topic a little bit there, but still relevant. You see this done really well every day without realising. This is why every time you get fries at McDonald's, they ask if you want to supersize it, or whatever the new phrase is. It's not that the person behind the tills just went, I've got a good idea. It's because they've worked out that's how they sell more fries.
Absolutely.
And everyone's told, well, this is how we sell more fries.
Yeah.
They all do the same thing. It's all they'll say it with their own smile, their own personality behind it. But it's not by chance that they're all told to know that. It's because they've shared that, haven't they?
It's because they've had that sales training of, like the upselling, isn't it? Yeah. Knowing exactly, the targets for the business is, we want to sell X amount of hamburgers, but we also want to sell X amount of fries. So it's giving them the knowledge.
Fries, we want double burgers. Yeah. Do you want cheese? Do you want the bigger drink?
Yeah.
Would you like to make that a meal? Again, we see this all day, every day. And
you don't realise you're being sold to, but you are.
Yeah.
But again, you're being sold to in a way that is going to help you. So, are the children extra hungry today? Would they like some fries with that? Do the kids want a little bit of tomato sauce on that? Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's not the sales message always. It's how can we help? And I think that's quite important.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, it's interesting.
And I think, going back to what you're saying about the whole team, I think it is important that the whole team have some kind of sales, marketing knowledge and training in that.
Well, if nothing else as well, you might be worried there if you're in a team and marketing you didn't think was your job, but it is. You might be thinking, well, I don't know how to close a sale. I don't know how to sell that or upsell that. it's not always necessarily they have to do that, but you certainly have to know what your business actually does. So if you're in, you know, this is why you can go to anybody in a supermarket and say, where's the meat counter? You know, anyone on there will know where it is. It's not their job to sell you the meat, but they need to know that they sell meat and where it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And in a professional firm, there might be 20 services. Well, I don't do that, but I know they do that.
Yeah.
I'll get them to give you a call. Yes, we can help you, but it's not me. So it's not necessarily that you have to deliver the sale, agree the price, or any of those things, but you have to know as a minimum what your business is up to, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you've just hit on a key point. When I'm mentioning sales, I'm not necessarily meaning that people need to be salespeople, because actually that's the total wrong thing. We encourage staff when they go into a networking event or whatever, or going to meet a whole group of new clients, not to sell. It's not about selling, it's about helping, solving problems, building relationships, connecting. How can we make an impact? How can we help you? Sales is not what you're there to do, really. And that's what makes marketing so special.
I mean, I could do a whole, I've done a lot of networking over the years, and you can tell the people who are kind of like, it's their first networking, they've got their first coffee and they think, right, I'm going to...
They've got the business card ready.
Hi, I'm Martin, there's a card. You're just like, hold on, you know, just don't... And you can just sense that, can't you?
People are not more savvy to it, and, you know, it just turns them straight off. It's like, oh God, what's he trying to sell us? And, you know, it's when you get a phone call from reception, it's such and such from such and such. You just know they're going to get on the phone and sell you something. So yeah, it's about being authentic and helping.
And finding out what the problem is.
Absolutely.
Because after all, if you don't know what their issue is, how could you possibly help them?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay then. So yeah, because you mentioned before, you mentioned James. So James is a guy who does a lot of marketing help for accountants as well, to be honest. And his book is literally called Selling to Serve. Yeah. And the key bit there is you're serving someone, you're helping someone. And he talks about in there, you've got a moral obligation to tell someone you can help them. Just so happens that it's a chargeable service or a chargeable product, but why would you not tell them you can solve that problem for them? Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if you're a plumber and you're in someone's house fixing their boiler and they say the fire's on the blink, you don't just go, tough. Yeah. You go, I can help with that. Do you want me to have a look? Yeah. And again, no one thinks they're being sold to. They think, well, that's handy. You can look at that while you're here. Great. That helps me. Absolutely. Okay then. So what unprompted question here, because I like to just throw people off the thing. What's going to change then over the next, I don't know, year, 2 years? Because everyone's had the old normal. We're in version 6 of new normals now, COVID related. It's worth bearing in mind here that everyone's audience is now shattered. They've gone everywhere. People aren't walking into stores, they're buying it online, they're getting more takeouts instead of eating in. A lot of stuff's changed, hasn't it? Yeah. And there's a danger that if you're not keeping an eye on that, then your audience has just walked away somewhere else. Yeah. And if you're still just blasting the same message to the same place, you're now missing them, aren't you?
Yeah.
What do you think people can do to try and just keep aware of that then? I mean, any suggestions on?
I think listening to your current customers, getting constant feedback. As you say, the world has totally changed. Now customers are wanting instant answers, instant feedback. The first thing people do is go online and find out reviews on things first. So I think if you're listening and in tune with your customers, you can't go wrong. Taking that feedback on board, tweaking your product or service in line with what they're wanting, and yeah, just making sure that you are constantly evolving. Don't change. Change. No, don't change. Yeah. Change. Don't stand still is what I was going to say. Yeah. And I think the best way to do that is to listen to your customers. But then obviously there's a whole load of new marketing trends and techniques out there. Obviously social media, massive. Online reviews, massive. Instant media such as like Siri and Alexa. you know, interestingly, when I was at a marketing conference a few months ago, it was all how do you get Alexa to bring you up when people are searching for things? So Alexa, find me an accountancy firm in Jesmond. How do you get up there? That's how people are searching for things these days and wanting things, and it's just that pure, like, instant connection that people are wanting now.
It's funny you say that, actually, because my youngest, long before he could type or spell, knew to use his voice just to ask for the things he wanted. So on the Sky remote, he would just press the little voice thing, and he could ask for whatever the hell he wanted to watch.
Yeah.
Long before he could have actually found it, remembered what channel it was. Basically, as soon as he could speak, he was he was using the tech. So they're not going to easily give that up just because we would rather they went to our website. So you've got to remember, as generation shift as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a different thing altogether.
Absolutely. And asking your audience where they heard about you. So, you know, God, back in the day when I started with marketing, it was all, you know, it was all the local newspapers, the local magazines. As we know, like, print newspapers massively been in decline. It's all now, you know, I found you on this review site, or I found you on here. So it's just constantly being in tune with your audience and knowing where they're finding you.
So actually, that's a really easy win there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ring the last 5 new customers you've had. Just say, where did you come from?
Yeah.
If you haven't already asked them. So if you've got, like, literally half an hour to come up with a plan here, spend 10 minutes ringing your last 5 new customers and say, how did you find me?
Yeah.
And then think about what they bought, and then people looking there or looking for that thing. Yeah. That's a start, isn't it?
Yeah,
even if you do nothing else, start there. And it's also, I suppose, it's worth asking the people who you didn't get as well.
Yeah.
So if you get to the proposal stage or the quote stage or the estimate stage and people don't do it, don't just let that data walk away. Just, it's uncomfortable, but ring up and go, well, I know you didn't pick me, but could you tell me why?
Yeah.
You might say, well, actually, I really wanted a boiler with a smart meter on and he didn't offer that. All right, start offering that then.
Yeah.
Because use that information to basically adapt, can't you?
Yeah, improve and grow. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much, Gemma.
You're welcome.
Well, that's episode 8 of the Business Stuff podcast on marketing. I hope you found that of use, and look forward to seeing you soon on episode 9.